Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Corner Talk. I'm Curtis.
I'm Nick.
And what are we reviewing today?
Jumanji. Check it out. Alright. So, as you can tell, we're doing Jumanji, but we're not doing the new one. We're doing the Robin Williams 1995 Jumanji. It's kind of weird to say spoiler warning for this.
But spoiler warning.
Yeah, we have to say it just in case you haven't seen the movie that came out in 1995. And most people really enjoy Robin Williams, so they've probably seen this movie.
Definitely.
Yeah. Alright, so let's kind of go over the quick recap of this movie. So what happens?
So this is a movie that goes through 3 time periods. The first one is so forgettable it shouldn't even be in the movie. You have these 2 kids burying a box. We don't know what's in the box yet.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
In the ground, apparently it's out to get them for whatever reason. After that, we fast forward to 1969, where a kid by the last name of Parrish is being chased down by these bullies. Don't know why, kind of pointless for the most part, but they get chased down.
Well, he got chased down because he was hanging out with his girlfriend.
The bully's
which
girlfriend.
was like his best friend. But because it was the bully's girlfriend, he didn't like that.
And that's pretty much it. The whole reason for the bullies being in there is so he has a reason to have a confrontation with his father later in the movie. So he goes to his father's shoe factory. Stuff happens. His father says, "You gotta grow up, be a man." He goes home.
After he got attacked by the bullies, he just starts hearing something in a construction site. By the way, nobody stops him from walking into an active construction site. But he hears like a thumping, something calling him.
Mm-hmm.
He finally goes over to this dirt wall. He starts ripping at it. He finds the box that was buried at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Opens it up and finds the Jumanji game.
Okay.
And then takes it home. And that's when we have the confrontation with the father.
Yeah. He decides that he wants to run away from home because he feels like his parents don't care about him. Right before he walks out the door, here's a knock at the door. It's the girl returning his bike, which was stolen earlier by the bullies. They start playing the game. He gets sucked into the game, and then we fast forward to 1995, which at that point was present day.
So Peter and Judy, they start hearing the thumping.
Yeah.
And they discover the game, and they start playing it. Peter rolls once. It's a double, so he gets to go again.
Yep.
And that's when he releases Alan. Because Alan is trapped inside of Jumanji.
Until someone rolls a 5 or an 8.
Yeah. And from there, then it's a whole bunch of shenanigans. They gotta finish playing the game. And all these creatures and hunters are released into the world. And then what happens at the end? At the end,
we get one final confrontation with Alan and Hunter, who's played by the exact same actor as Alan's dad. It's kind of a cathartic moment. Now Alan finally learns to stand up for himself, even though he's terrified. Winds up winning the game by an accidental roll. And after he wins, everything rewinds back to 1969. And in the end, everyone's happy. Everyone gets their parents back. No one dies. And that's it.
Our main actor is Robin Williams. He plays the kid, or the character Alan Parrish.
Yeah.
What do you think of Robin Williams in this movie?
Any movie that he's in, he kind of brings a childlike wonder to. And he definitely does that here. Throughout most of the movie, he has the mentality of like a kid who's still in the 6th grade, because when he was sucked into Jumanji, he was still in 6th grade, so he never mentally grew up. So he has a lot of hurdles to face with that. He never learned to drive, so then he has to eventually drive a police car.
Very true, and it's interesting because like once he gets back and he realizes his parents are dead, and he goes back to his house, he puts on clothes, shaves, cleans up, and like one of the kids asks him, "Wait, so what are you doing now?" He's like, "Well, I'm going to pick up where I left off. I wonder if this person is still teaching 6th grade." And it's like he doesn't care about what's going on. He doesn't care about the game anymore. Mm-hmm. He's like, "I'm back. I'm going to pick up where I left off. Let's go." Now he doesn't care that the things are running around, but obviously they have to finish playing the game.
Yeah,
all 4 of them, which leads us to our next character, Sarah, who's played by Bonnie Hunt, which obviously she was the one that played with Alan in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Saw him get sucked in, got chased out of the house by these bats.
African bats.
And nobody believed her, and she just had to deal with all this psychological drama, people telling her that she's crazy, and she literally never left her house after that.
No, she also changed her name.
She did.
So, but yeah, Sarah, like you said, she kind of goes through this psychosis phase when she was younger, which we don't get to see. We just get to see the after effects.
Yeah.
And she starts to convince herself after Alan comes back in that she's hallucinating, that she's seeing things, until stuff starts to physically happen to her. She kind of has to accept the reality that this is happening. Mm-hmm. Alan kind of tricks her back into playing. And once they start playing, they kind of get back into the groove. Things happen, and
nobody gets sucked into the game this time.
No one gets sucked into the game this time. But before we even meet her, we get introduced to these two little kid actors. One being played by Kirsten Dunst, Judy, right?
Judy, yeah. And then Peter's played by an actor named Bradley. And obviously, these are like the stand-in for the new Alan and Sarah. Obviously, they're not friends, they're brother and sister, but they've lost their parents, kind of like this older Alan, his parents have passed away, they spent all their money, all their time, all their energy, so they died looking for him for 21 years, because he was trapped in the game for 26, but they died about, I think it was just 4 years prior, 4 years prior, so it was actually 22 years that they were looking for him.
Yeah.
And never found him, even though rumors spread that, the father killed him, chopped up his body, put it in the walls of the house. Very disturbing. This is a PG kids movie, by the way. They're dealing with the loss of their parents or living with their aunt, kind of like we talked about earlier. And so each one of these characters, as you've mentioned, they all have this baggage that they're carrying that they have to deal with, and this game is kind of helping them deal with it.
They're all going through some sort of loss, some sort of trauma that they're dealing with in their own little way. Alan chooses to deal with it by picking up where he left off. Judy chooses to deal with it by kind of being a mischievous liar and likes to play pranks.
Peter just kind of stays quiet.
Peter chooses to stay quiet to make people think that he's been mute ever since the situation, but he still talks with his sister. And then Sarah decides that she actually went crazy and shut herself off from the world.
Yeah. I think she did some readings or whatever.
She became a psychic reader.
So, I guess we could kind of start talking about some of the positives of this movie. Obviously, with the movie being done in 1995, that requires CG, mechanical animals and creatures like the lion. Yeah. The CG itself is fine
for the time.
1995. Obviously, it doesn't hold up today, but it was still fun.
I actually kind of think it holds up a little bit because what the CG looks like is kind of like this kind of cartoonish kids world, and even though the monkeys themselves, they didn't look all that actually they didn't look actually like monkeys, but they had this kind of mischievous and emotive faces that really worked for the movie. The stampedes were obviously pure CG. Yeah. I think my favorite effect was actually the lion, which was a mix of CG and mechanical puppetry.
It was interesting to see, just because you don't really see a lot of that anymore. CGI nowadays is so kind of clean and crisp, and it's done its best to make it look as realistic. Where this one, obviously we've never been into the world of Jumanji until probably the new one from what we've seen from the trailers.
Yep.
Where they actually go, and that we don't know what these creatures looked like when Alan was stuck in this world.
Yeah.
And that could be what they looked like. Obviously, I think they want them to look more realistic. Mm-hmm. But you're right, the monkeys were honestly hyper intelligent.
Shooting guns, driving cars.
Yeah, they were driving motorcycles, driving police cars, shooting guns.
And that kind of
had to turn on the sirens. They were all over the place. Anytime that something needed to be done or something crazy.
And in a movie like this, where that kind of cheesiness happens, it's fine. It's an action comedy movie.
Yeah.
So I can suspend my disbelief just enough to make me think that monkeys from Jumanji can do that.
Yeah.
And a positive for me was I don't know if you thought about this, but I thought the writing was actually pretty bad, but the delivery of the lines themselves were actually pretty good. They kind of made up for the bad writing.
Yeah, obviously there were some lines that were kind of weird, but obviously I think Robin Williams does such a good job with weird lines like that, and they may have written it just for him, knowing that he could deliver some of those lines.
Well, it's not just him, but Kirsten Dunst has lines that are kind of cheesy and kind of bad, and she delivers them pretty okay, despite the fact that she's a child actor in this one. Same thing with Sarah, same thing with Peter. Mm-hmm. They all have their moments where they deliver these bad lines in a very nice way.
Yeah. Then I guess it's probably been time to get into a few negatives. One of the few negatives I had was that obviously, everybody's dealing with trauma from their past, But obviously with like the new children involved in the game, you've got Judy, who's the pathological liar now.
Yep.
And Peter, who is a mute. And obviously, I think the focus was the game. They learned to overcome their fears of just like Alan and Sarah.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anything that happened to Judy where she had to tell the truth to get out of the situation, understanding why lying is different or isn't good. Nor did Peter have to go through a situation where he actually had to explain to somebody else. To me, there's no progression of why they got over their humps.
Yeah.
Of what was holding them back after the death of their parents, other than the fact that there's one line in the beginning of the movie where Judy tells their aunt of, oh, this is why you got the house so cheap, is because the original owner chopped up his son and put the body in the walls. And then she was like, go to bed, you're grounded for lying. She's like, oh, I was telling the truth, by the way. And kept going and made the aunt think of maybe she was right. No, that was kind of pointless. And
Judy and Peter, in the end, they don't really need to learn anything from this movie because, as I said before, they go back in time to the point where they never existed. They never even played Jumanji.
I understand that, but the thing is, they should have. Obviously, they're children. There's always something to be learned, especially from a traumatic event like this, even though they'll never remember it because by the time it goes back in time, they were never born. But it would have been nice, even for children watching the movie, to see that kind of acting. Because you have kids that don't like to talk very much, or that lie all the time. I mean, they're kids. But to see something that can be learned from it, especially kids back in '95 when they watched this movie, could have been good.
Yeah.
But obviously, if we're talking about this, obviously at times isn't even appropriate for kids. I remember when we were watching this movie, you see Alan run around in his Jumanji outfit that he made. He's running down the street, and he stops, and right next to him, it literally says adult triple X adult films. This is a PG kids movie.
You know, they got to throw in some jokes for adults to keep them entertained.
Yeah.
But obviously they didn't need the jokes because the movie is entertaining on its own.
Yeah, but there's a difference between funny underlying jokes that kids can find funny too, just because of the way it's delivered, and then that parents understand because of the subtext under it.
Yeah.
Not a blatant sign that just says, "Hey, adults, this is for you." That was pointless.
Nah. As for me, as far as negatives go, like I said, the writing was pretty bad. Very cheesy at times, very corny. It was saved with the line delivery via Robin Williams for most of the time.
Yeah.
But you can't get around that the writing was bad and the story itself was kind of just mediocre.
The other good bonus, like you said, or positive, I forgot to mention, is the practical effects. When Peter tries to cheat to win the game, the game knows that he's cheating and starts turning him into a monkey, which was kind of weird. Why would you turn him into a monkey? But it looked good, the makeup, all that. I thought that looked fine. He actually kind of looked like a Who character.
I actually thought the same thing
from the Grinch Who Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny. It was mainly the nose, but it was still kind of funny.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting question for you.
All right.
If this specific movie, the 1995 version, was coming out today instead of the brand new one, how do you think it would be received by audiences?
I think poorly, to be honest. Like I said, the CG, if the CG isn't being updated, it's not up to today's standards. It's very much easy to spot. There's a lot of green screen put-ins, in the opening scene with the bats, where it looks like the bats are actual bats. They're just shot behind a green screen and then just superimposed onto the picture. That kind of looks a little bit bad. The monkeys, while having a cartoonish look, you can obviously tell they're CG. That wouldn't hold up to today. People would rip on it for that. So I still think people would find it an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
But people wouldn't generally like it.
Okay. I can agree with that too. Obviously, people would go see it because it's Robin Williams, whether or not he's around or not. Because people love Robin Williams. He's always done a good job. Even though maybe in his later years he didn't have the greatest movies, people still watched them, and some of them were still pretty funny. Mm-hmm. Honestly, people just kind of get it. I think a lot of people didn't give him a chance because he was kind of older. But it was really good. A lot of his newer movies were still good. So yeah, I think it would do fine. I think you're right. People would rip on it, and especially in today's world with Rotten Tomatoes and all these different critical sites, and you have like how we're doing right now with YouTube. Everybody has their own voice that can be heard.
Yep.
And you're right, people rip on it for the CGI, the lackluster story, the crappy lines. Obviously, you know, they give it the positive because Robin Williams, he's good at his line delivery, things like that. He kind of helps lift the movie up a little bit. But yeah, it probably wouldn't do very well. But what would you rate this movie?
Probably, as enjoyable as the movie was, probably give it a 6.
Okay. I think that's what I was feeling too. Just looking over everything, obviously, like, it's still a good movie. Still a fun time to watch. But to be fair, I'm going to watch it maybe once every 7 years. It's not a movie that I'm going to actively go out and watch all the time.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fine. It's got fun line delivery at times. But yeah, I don't think it can go above a 6. So, any last words or anything else you want to add?
Not really.
Alright. Well, this has been the new episode of Corner Talk. We hope you enjoyed it. Wait for our video next week. Obviously, I think it's going to be a pretty obvious one of what we're going to try to do.
Yep.
Because it comes out in a few days.
So
we hope you enjoyed this.
And look forward to the next video.
See you in the next corner. Goodbye, guys. Hey, guys. We hope you enjoyed this video here in Corner Talk.
If you liked what you saw, please comment, like, and subscribe down below.
And don't forget to ring that bell so you know when we have the next video up.
Until then,
we would like to see you in the next corner. Have a great day, guys.
Goodbye.